Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial series here on my channel where we'll be going over the uh, whole thing of HTMX, and the goal of this tutorial is to sort of teach you how to build a fully fledged functioning UI of an app using HTMX and Go using the HATEOS framework and really cool stuff. So HTMX, if you don't know, is a small JavaScript library that gives you access to powerful browser features like Ajax, CSS transitions, server requests, and stuff like that without having to write any JS. So instead of JS, HTMX uses HTML attributes to configure the behavior of your HTML page. So essentially, instead of sending a JSON request from the backend, interpreting that in the front end, having a virtual DOM that does the state stuff, instead of that, you're directly sending the HTML from the server to the page, and you get an almost static experience with the same dynamic usage and the user interface we are all accustomed to. So HTMX has a lot to offer, including wonderful memes on Twitter. And in this tutorial series, we'll build a simple Pastebin app using Go and HTMX. Now, this tutorial is a complete tutorial on building powerful UIs with HTMX and Go. So it's not only HTMX, and this tutorial by no means is a reference. For reference, I recommend you check out the HTMX and the Go docs. And one more thing, I'm not a HTMX or a Go expert. I just love the two combination, and I've written quite a few number of applications using those two, which you can check out on my GitHub or the links that I'll be posting down below. And yeah, these two are quite simple tools. Go makes writing safe server-side apps really easy, and HTMX does the same for HTML. So yeah, with that, let's get started. So this is the HTMX website. I'll be leaving that in the description below. And to get started, all you have to do is include this script tag from unpackage and you're good to go. So I actually came prepared for this one. I built a whole slides thing. So next, what does HTML really provide us that makes it so special? First up, HTML allows you to make Ajax requests to the server, and sockets, server sent events, CSS transitions, all of the cool stuff. HTML provides a really rich feature set there. And one thing that makes HTMX stand out for me is it takes me back to the era when I used to write a simple Flask app which with just Jinja templates, and it used to be fully functioning. And in our in our excitement to explore React and all of that stuff, we sometimes forget the simplicity of just HTML. And I really like the fact that HTMX is trying to bring that out. So here's a small example where let's compare JSX and HTMX. So let's say I have a API slash thing, something, right? So let's say that returns a response. So to do that in React, I would have to set a use state, use a use effect, and validate the whole thing, fetch, and then set the data, which it does that asynchronously for sure. And the syntax does look familiar to most of the developers, but this, on the other hand, is just 3 lines of awesomeness. So this what it does for here is it makes a simple get request to API slash thing and swaps the outer HTML content of this p tag. So that was as simple as that. And so basically HTMX is a backend developer's dream come true. I can just write the normal HTML that I'm used to, and I can make a UI out of it, which is so really cool. So what are we building today? Well, we are essentially building a Pastebin service for developers. And let me just close out Thunderbird there. It's making some sort of nuisance. Yep. So yeah, we're building a premium Pastebin service which takes the user's code in a text area, saves the data to a server and to a database, and returns a URL to the user. Really simple. And what we'll be using for this is Go, which is like the most beginner friendly language for web development, HTMX, Tailwind CSS, PostgreSQL, Docker, and Docker Compose. Right. So our action plan, let's go over that. We'll use Golang engine framework to construct a simple server. I've done most of the boilerplate stuff. I will be going through the code in a second. Next, our server will use native the Go's inbuilt standard libraries HTML/template for the templating. We'll be using native SQL queries using the Postgres database driver for Go, and the response will be sent to the server along with the HTMX attributes. Then finally, we'll run Docker and the Tailwind CSS just-in-time compiler to build the CSS and the server. Right. Now, some disclaimers before we get started. You need to know a little bit of server programming to use HTMX. It's not necessary. You can probably get away with using a public API, but having a little bit of knowledge about Flask, Python, Go, or so yeah. And HTMX doesn't have to be standalone. This is just a, 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 a proof that it can be. You can use it really well with frameworks like Astro or a static site generator like Hugo or stuff like that. And I don't like comparing HTMX with React and all. That's not a replacement for them. It's a whole other approach. So just stick with that. Yeah, so HTMX is like super fast, and I'm so excited to show you this. So with that being said, let's get started and open up our VS Code. Let's go through the project. So yeah, here we have our VS Code open. I've done most of the templating and boilerplate stuff. All of this will be available on the GitHub link I'll be posting below. So I'll quickly go over the code so it becomes a bit easier for us. First up, I'm using a makefile to with two commands, build and run. The build silently builds the Go here and runs this thing. The run first builds it, then runs the binary. And I just do this because I find this to be a bit faster, and make has been a part of my workflow since a really long time, and I just like using it. Next up, I have set up a env file with the following syntax. The DB is the database name that you'll be using, the Postgres database name, that if you're not familiar with, you can just use by creating create DB, the DB name. So it can be something like that, right? And then the user, password, the host, and the port. The host and the port belong to the the PSQL server running, and the listen address is where you want the server to listen to, basically. Yep, I've installed 3 dependencies to the Go lib. The lib/pq, which is the Postgres driver, the gin slash this thing, which is our web framework, and the go.env, which we'll be using to read from our .env file. Right. Now let's go over the standard structure, which I'm sure it'll be familiar to most of you guys if you're familiar with Go. So this is the main.go, which is the main entry point to our program, which has a simple new API server which creates a new instance of the API struct, which has two fields: the client field, which is a string, and the store field, which is a store interface, which we'll be getting into later, so don't worry about that. This new API server just gets the env, gets listen address, and the store, which is a new DB instance. We'll be going over that. basically constructs the connection string from the environment variables and returns a pointer. I'll just show you that in a second. But we have a simple start function that creates a new default gen router, right? And it has a simple slash ping and it just returns a JSON response. I know HTMX and JSON, but it's just for testing sake. And okay, you know what? Let's be a man of our word. Let's actually return a string that says pong. No more JSON. Yeah, you basically run, and if there's an error, I just panic. That's it, quite simple. And now, this DB instance is where most of the cool stuff happens. So, the DB instance is a simple struct that has a DB field, which is a pointer to SQL.db. And we have a store interface that stores all the methods that can act on the DB instance, right? And the new DB instance basically just gets all the environment variables, creates a string, and opens the connection. That's it, quite simple. If you're not familiar with this, I recommend you check out some Go tutorials. I'll be linking them down below. But yeah, this basically returns a new DB instance that has this this thing that actually holds the connection. Think of, if you're from Python world, think of it like the cursor, if you may. Not exactly the cursor, but similar to it, I guess. This is a simple pre-start function. It just creates the tables if they don't exist. So as you can see, we have 3 tables. And since what we are building is a Pastebin app, where the user just pastes stuff and all, we'll be having the users, username, full name, bio, email, password, and created at. So it can be like a really cool profile, right? And yeah, we also have a sessions table that actually stores the user sessions so we can validate the authentication and stuff. We have a paste table that has a paste ID, username, content, lang, and created at. 3 simple tables, and it's executed whenever the DB instance is called, right? Next, we have a types.go that holds the env type that is read by utils.go for first loading the environment. Let me actually add that to my workspace settings, which actually loads the environment and gets all of the variables from it, right? And these are just simple common utility functions that we'll be using in the future. One is for hashing the password, one is for matching the hashed passwords, one is for a random hash, one is for generating a session key, right? Very simple stuff. So yeah, this is our server, and if I just click on the nice little run icon there, that creates make run. Take some time, and there we go. Our server is running with this slash ping. And if I open up Firefox and go localhost 2468/ping, we get pong. So that's awesome. Our server is working well and nice. Oops. Yep. So now that we have our server up and running, oh no, what's the error? Oh right, I was a small mistake. I'm sorry. I was actually, for tests, I was just printing out the whole header. I don't need to do that. Yep. Take some time, stop the server, run again. Is that? Yep. So, what are we going to do in this introductory part? Well, in this introductory part, we are not going to do much, really, since we have set up our Go server. And yeah, you don't really need to have to do this. The code is available on GitHub. I recommend you just copy paste it for now. But the main thing we will be setting up in this thing is the templates, where we'll be setting up base.html and index.html, right? And if you're not familiar for how Go templating works, so this is basically the base.html. That's all that it's going to be. And in the index.html, I can just say extends base.html and that. Now I can start using the body right here. I can be like, hello world. Yep. Actually, it's not working for me for some reason. Let's try that. Alright, I've not closed that. There we go. So, let's make a simple get request, this thing. So, we have a new function that takes in the context of API in the form of a pointer, and we just say home page, right, which receives a gin.context, and we write gin slash. Actually, I guess we can use the inbuilt gin. What's that? I'm not even sure at this point. HTML renderer. Gin Vanik. GitHub.com slash gin Vanik. There we go. Oops, I don't want the reference. I want gin. Right. Here, I guess in the docs we can go to features, or examples, I guess. There we go. Here, HTML rendering. There we go. Load HTML block. Okay, so load HTML block slash template slash star. There we go. Right, so now we can just use c.html to load all whatever we need, which is quite cool. Yep. That's cool. So there we go. We use that, so we can just now say c.html 200 index.html gin.context, nothing. Start the server, run it again, give it time to. Yep, there we go. It has recognized the loaded HTML templates, and oh, I forgot to register the get slash new. Start the server, run it again. Yep, so there we go. We have the home one running, and now if I go to localhost 2468, oops, what happened? Template is not a method. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that not extends? I have to refer to my previous projects. Templates. Okay. So you say template, not extends. Hopefully that's cool. There we go. Hello world. Right. Does this include? Yeah, it does include all of that. So that's cool. Now let's bring on HTMX. We take the script tag, paste that in, and we have HTMX. Let's actually also have like icon, because just because I can. I think I have an icon at this address, so that should be really easy. There we go. We have an icon now, and yeah. So our first sort of example of HTMX is going to be this. You see, we have the slash ping that returns the pong as the string response. How cool would that be if we have that in home as well? So to do that, all I have to do is create a new p with the ID hello, right, and say hx get slash ping hx swap outer HTML. You don't really have to specify this, it's there by default. HX target is slash hello, and uh, it doesn't work. For what reason? Mm, okay, so just sending in the requests, but it's not sending a request to Pong, is it? Yeah, we do get the thing. Oh, there we go. The HX trigger was not set. So we have HX trigger. Oh no, HX trigger of load. So that does it on load. Yep, there we go. So we have interaction to the server without doing anything at all. We have Pong right there. How cool was that? Right. So now that we have HTMX set up, we can really start doing all the cool stuff. So this is just a rundown of what we just did. So yeah, this is just a quick little rundown. We did a simple get and swap in HTMX, and though it was messy, I'm sure you can take some things home. Don't worry too much about the Go server. This is not really a tutorial on that. I sort of assume you know a bit of Go, and I'll be linking a few tutorials to get you started. But the main part, the cool part, was this. How cool was it that we just got Pong like that? And if you can see in the original HTML, it's actually getting modified in the HTML. So it's not like weird this thing or anything. It's actually good. And I know the attributes remain there, but that's cool. So yeah, we have a simple get and swap. So the ideology behind HTMX was, why does the browser only do get requests for A and form elements? Why not for other elements? So HTMX extends this to any element with the hx get attribute. So it just hx get just does a very simple get request to URL specified in the attribute. Right, this can be a this can be a internal URL or an external URL. And by internal URL, I mean in the host itself, like the same host, or it can be a cross site, same site or cross site. Right. And this is similar to this. So you fetch hello and the response, you put it in the inner div. Really cool, right? And then we also used hx swap, which specifies a target for the response. Right, so you get the response.text. Where do you put it? That is specified in hx swap. And it takes in a CSS selector and just replaces the content. So it's quite cool. Right. Then we also have hx trigger, which is the actual trigger. And as you can see, the default is click. That is the reason I got confused there. So if I still go to the HTML code and remove this load attribute, the Pong will not load. And I can actually show that in action right here, where the moment I click it, there you go, you have Pong there. Refresh, click, Pong. So yeah, as you can see, the default is click. Right, and that's what I'm talking about. HTMX has some really powerful defaults. So if you don't specify a target, it will use the element itself, and it will replace the outer HTML with the response and not the inner HTML by default. It also has this timeout, so if the request takes too long, it will be cancelled, and HTMX will only do a get request by default, so you don't accidentally change the state, right? So yeah, that's as cool as that. And the next one is the secret one, which we'll be discussing in our next tutorial series, rethinking the Jamstack with HTMX. So stay tuned for that. That's where we'll be actually doing some database stuff with Go. I think I'll be showcasing that. And yeah, I know I didn't do a really good job of showing you the underlying Go code that's enabling this. Hopefully the GitHub link and the tutorial series link below will be enough. And hopefully this video has like sort of piqued your interest in HTML and HTMX, and that is the final goal of this tutorial anyways. So yeah, hopefully with that, thanks for watching. In the next one, stay tuned, we'll actually be doing some stuff. I think I'll be releasing the videos every day if possible, or every week. So subscribe to my channel, stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching. And yeah, bye bye.